All right. Hey, sunshine. That's what I call smaller.
Water. Where? Marty? Yeah, I know what you said here. You good, Jim?
Can I get more notes?
Yeah, flip over that piece of paper.
He needs an audience. I'm the heckler. Come here, dear. Sit down right here, right next to Daddy.
Beautiful morning.
Sunshine. It is now. What'd you do? Oh my goodness. Smashed your finger or broke your finger? What'd you do? I can't tell.
Try to open the can.
A beer?
Yeah. Red Bull.
Those are tacos. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I can't wait till hamburger after.
What time is it?
Right.
Picking them up at 11.
Think so.
Okay, so we'll give it a couple seconds.
Have
Have you been there?
No.
Phenomenal.
You know that I didn't have a hamburger.
Best damn
in about 7
shakes you'll
years
ever
or so.
Really?
I mean, their shakes are fun. They got adult shakes, so you can go in there and get liquored up.
Really?
Best chicken fingers I've had. We're not having chicken fingers, so there's
How is it
something
you're,
harder.
you're losing all this weight, but you're talking about milkshakes, liquor, chicken fingers?
We gotta have a cheat day.
Well, okay, so you do.
So Sunday's my cheat day. I'm going to Grub Bird and I'm
Where's it at?
1 or 2 milkshakes right over here next to Melon Mushroom.
Oh, really? Close. I gotta go there then. That would
They
be-
just opened. I mean, I'm telling you, they've been packed.
That'd be a good thing to suggest to the vendors that come in here to get a $25 gift card.
Yeah, and I think we're getting coupons for the milkshakes and stuff too. We won't have the milkshakes here because they don't travel
Yeah.
This is gonna be a recording, right?
I didn't use her.
Oh my God. How did you survive?
Have you met, okay, so this is fine, I can write over here.
If I go off.
So when I get up and go to the next page, I can, and so from here over
I had one heart attack.
shows up.
Yeah, I can see that list right.
Like I could.
How far over could I move the chair?
About half
I
a
still
chairs.
could just gobble up a hamburger for some reason.
Man,
Right in.
No, I said
Okay.
fries.
so we can go ahead and go? All right, and you can go ahead and go because I know you got other things to do.
I'll take this to and then off my shirt.
Yeah, that's probably good. Hey, doing it. Black shirts, make sure you put the deodorant on first. So there's one, you know, guys, what can you do when you're wearing a black shirt when you don't want to have the white stains from your deodorant? That's a great talk to Terry topic. Well, you put your black shirt on first, and then you put your deodorant on. So great way to start off.
Deodorant?
Talk to Terry. Yes,
Yeah,
Hiram just had the white marks on his shirt.
What's that?
Okay, so I thought I smelled you. So this is the first recording of Talk to Terry. We're going to be doing this, and what this is a format of send in questions. You can text me at 770-789-5846. That's 770-789-5846. In the future, when we send these out, if you just want to send an email the week of, or the night before, or the morning of, you can just send me an email with the question, the situation, the obstacle that you have, whatever, so that we can get those addressed. Today, we've got 10 topics. We've got appraisal issues and how to manage through those, discount agents and how to compete with them, listing situations with homes that are sitting and not selling, and how can you negotiate and work with the seller. We had a survey issue that popped up right before the closing. Problem getting the seller to act on moving things around, reconditioning their home or something to help their home be more sellable. I feel bad at meetings when we're talking about success of others and I don't really have much success and it demotivates me. Due diligence ends tonight. and we just found out that it has Atlas Chalet shingles, and the other agent is putting a play that is not necessarily true. 22-year-old polybutylene plumbing, tense negotiations, and you're just $1,000 apart, and the seller or the buyer that you're representing is steadfast in their position that they're not going to budge. And last but not least, if we can get to it, big inspection list. What do you do if you're on the seller side, and what do you do if you're on the buyer side? So we're just going to dive into these as we go through 1 through 10 and move on through that. And if you guys have anything that you want to bring up or talk about, then we'll also do that as well. So I'll kind of be going here, there, and since this is the first one, we can make mistakes, and it really doesn't matter. So it's all good. This will be recorded and put on the link out there. I'll send that out. So let us know how this goes, and thank you for being here. Appraisal issues. This is coming up more and more that we're seeing things where you have a home, maybe we see it more in the 300s, 400s, 500s, where there's a lot of, you got a great home that was on the market, you had multiple offers, people bid it up, or a situation where maybe the appraiser did not go out there and do the right appraisal stuff, and the home appraised for less than what the purchase price was, and now you have a situation. The situation is, what can I do to manage through this so I don't lose the deal? Can I, one, argue the appraisal?
Yes.
Yes, you can. You can argue the appraisal. In talking with Scott Murphy of DS Murphy and Associates, even with them going through and nitpicking things apart, what I'm going to share with you guys is, one, as an agent, you're not qualified to argue that appraisal. You may think you know what you're talking about, but one slight misstep, and you'll have a misstep, will absolutely destroy any opportunity to get the appraisal redone, because you got to be very specific in what you go after with that. So one, I will tell you, a reappraisal or an argument of an appraisal that's already been done, if you get a third-party company to come in like DS Murphy and Associates, it'll probably cost you about $400 or $500 to have that rebutted, because there's extra work that has to go into it, communications and all that stuff. They have to look over that appraisal, then go out there and find other comps if they believe that it can be done. It is not cheap. It's actually more affordable to go ahead and get a pre-appraisal done before you list the property. If you have any question over the appraisal or over the purchase price, what it may be in a neighborhood, get a pre-appraisal done. It's the cost of a normal appraisal, but they will give you basically a warranty, an insurance policy on it, that they will argue it should the next appraisal come in and it be short of the purchase price that they believed it to be. But if you find that you didn't do the pre-appraisal, the appraisal comes in short, and you go, gosh, I really feel like there's an issue here, and the appraiser didn't do a good job, and there's faults in this, then get a third-party company. I do recommend DS Murphy and Associates, but you can use whoever you want. If y'all use anybody else, or know anybody else that doesn't?
No.
The reason that I like DS Murphy and Associates is Scott Murphy, the owner, is very well respected in the business. He travels around, teaches a lot of classes on appraisal issues, but he also sits on the board of appraisals for the state. So he signs the licenses of all of the appraisers, so they all know him. So it gives you credibility more than just getting somebody else that might be a little cheaper. But Scott told me that about maybe 20% of the appraisers are able to be rebuked, or rebutted, whatever you want to say. So very low percentage, even with the best measures in place. But if you do, you can argue it. It's just a low percentage thing. And really, it's going to come down to how bad do the sellers want to move? How bad do the buyers want to buy? We see a lot of them negotiating terms into the middle often. But if a seller has priced it and they've had multiple offers, typically the seller will say, you're going to pay the price that you're going to, or I'm going to go to one of the others. So then it becomes down to negotiations. How strong are you versus the other agent? How strong was the price and the condition of the home? How bad do the buyers want it? How much are they willing to cover? And I would suggest this: don't be the one that makes the call of what the people should do. Let them be the one in charge, so that if the deal falls apart, it never falls back on you. And that's the key thing on that. Anything else y'all want to say?
How long are FHA appraisals good for?
FHA appraisals are good and locked in for 6 months. So if you have an FHA appraisal that comes in, or a VA appraisal, and it's low and the people don't like it. Did you get your deodorant taken care of?
No.
Because that was our first topic.
Oh, sorry, no, I have not, but it's coming.
Okay. But 6 months is what they're locked in for. So if you have one on a FHA or VA appraisal that comes in low, and the people walk away. That appraisal is locked in for 6 months in those systems. So if you go back and put it back on the market, you need to make sure that it's cash or conventional or a different form of a loan than FHA or VA. Anything else on appraisal? Okay. Discount agents. How do I compete with a discount agent? We're seeing this a lot out there as the market has gotten a lot. It's gotten easier for people, and we're seeing people even in the 500s put homes on Zillow, and they're getting sales off just putting their home on Zillow. So as that happens, agents feel like they have less market ability, if you will. And so a lot of agents are going out there and doing what I call whoring their commissions and making it tougher for people that want to hold the commissions higher. The way that we operate here, you have the right to negotiate your commissions. We want you to get every dime you possibly can, but you will have situations that you go, hey, you know, in the end, I'm listing this $800,000 home. If I have to go down just a little bit to make the deal happen or to get the listing, I'm willing to do that. That's your call. But we're here to help you be able to negotiate your commissions up. I will tell you this strategy has worked well for me in my career. I saw it one time. I'm going to draw it out for you, and it makes sense, and I will challenge you guys to try and get this down. There's 4 components to it, so that if somebody says, gosh, I really like what you guys do, but this RE/MAX agent or Keller agent is offering all of their services for 4.5%. Let's just go on 4.5% as a random number. Here's the who wants to play? Swati, you be the seller. I understand what you're looking for. So has anybody ever explained to you how commissions really work?
No.
No is the answer because no one's ever asked them that question. So I can assure you, I've never had somebody say, yes, they've explained it. So let me show you right here. And by the way, I always draw it out because it makes more sense. And if you have something that's pre-printed, then you're selling them something versus educating them and explaining something. Let me show you how real estate commissions really work. So here's your normal 6% commission charge that an agent's typically going to pay. Now, you've got different avenues in this that you can try to save money from somebody. So here's one avenue. First off is the buyer's agent that's involved in the commission. Now, I recommend to everybody that they pay that agent 3% because an agent has a choice, and if they are looking over the listings, they're going to line up to show, and you're just paying them 2% or 2.5%, they may put your home last, and they might not ever see your home. So I always recommend to people to pay the buyer's agent 3%. Do you see a need to pay the buyer's agent less than 3%?
No.
No, the answer is always no. So you got it. Great. So that's 3% of the commission right there. The other side is basically my side, the listing agent side. And where that comes down to is one, the broker and the cut that they get, the marketing and what's done, and then the agent that you hire. Those are the 3 things that get paid in a typical other side from listing side. I'm going to tell you this, my broker, they pay a lot of money. They got a great staff. They've got an office, and all that goes into, the main thing is the staff that goes into getting your home online as fast as you possibly can. The broker's not going to negotiate their portion of the commissions. You can call them, but nobody's ever been able to get them to reduce their portion of the commission. So do you want to give my broker a call to try and get their portion down?
No, I trust you.
Okay, and remember this, the staff is the most important part of that. We have 14 people on staff. All of them do something to get your home online, so I don't have to worry about that. It gets executed perfectly, okay? So just remember that. Second part comes down to the marketing that I do. Now, Swati, you said that you want to have my marketing working for you, so obviously I do a better job and a better campaign than the other agent that's doing it for 4.5%, correct?
True.
Okay. Now, what I would do is I'd turn around and I'd show the listing presentation. I'd shove it back across the table, and I'd go, is there anything in this marketing campaign that you feel compelled to remove to try and get that cost down? Now, before you say anything, Swati, let me just tell you, if it were me and I was in your shoes, I would not remove one thing from this item because you never know where that buyer's going to come from. But is there anything that you want to remove to try and cut the cost down there?
No, but I thought that every one of you use the same thing.
No, and the reason that you want me to do it is you've seen value in what I bring to the table and what I do to execute your home online and the additional things I do marketing-wise. So that's why you want my services over the other agent, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the final component right here comes down to the agent. What I want you to realize is the The agent that's out there raising their hand saying, I'll do it for 4.5%. They know the value of what their services are, and they're going to be the ones negotiating your price. And I want you to think about that for a second. You see, I put money and time into going into conferences around the country. I put time and energy into doing classes and studying so I can bring the best product for you and myself. And in that, I can't charge less than what I can to help you sell your home. And so think about, who do you want negotiating the terms on the contract that comes in for your home? The agent that's running around at 4.5%, or the one that knows what the value is that they bring to the table? Who would you rather hire?
Probably you, but I have to walk away with a certain amount. I can't afford to pay this much.
You know, I understand what you're saying, Swat, but here's the deal. This is what I want you to realize. We do not determine the value of what your home is going to bring to the market. And I know what the value that I bring to the market for listing your home and getting it in the highest probability of getting it sold in today's market, okay? So, do you see a reason that we can't get listed and started today at 6%? Let me go ahead and get started for you right now.
I need to talk to my husband before I can answer that.
Okay, but you're the decision maker, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this. What would it take to get you to start with me today? Because you're not questioning the value of 6% based off what I've laid out here, correct?
Can you give me the price that I want?
I can get you the price. I can get you the highest price that the market's going to bear, and I'm going to be able to negotiate the terms for you at the highest level for you versus the other agent at 4.5%.
Gosh, that's entirely like another 1.5%.
Look, it's what I call insurance, Swat. You're looking at it going, oh my God, it's 1.5%. I look at it and go, it's 1.5% to get the best measure in place for you to get the highest possible sales price. Doesn't that make sense?
So you telling me that you can guarantee to sell my home at the price?
I can't guarantee you anything outside of with going with me. I'm going to give you the highest probability of getting the highest price for you and negotiating the best terms in your spot.
Okay.
So why don't we go ahead and get started at 6%? And I'll call the other agents you interviewed and I'll tell them to go ahead and bring their buyers in here as well, okay? Now here's the deal. If they get steadfast on saying, I'm not going to pay 6%, I'm not going to pay 6%, what I would recommend is saying, I have what I call a flexible 6. Here's a way that we can both win. I'm not going to start listing your home today because you want to work with me, correct? As long as we can come to the terms. So here's the deal. Based off what I shared with you here, if there's another agent involved, there's no way I can do it for less than 6% because then I'd lose money and you don't want me to lose money, correct? So that wouldn't make sense. So if there's another agent involved, there's no question the commission is going to be 6%. But Swat, if my marketing brings in the buyer and I'm able to be the only agent involved, I will drop the commission down to 4.5% since I will be the only agent involved. And that way, if I'm able to procure the buyer, you'll get your 4.5%. How would that make you feel?
How often would you be able to bring the buyer?
About 25% of the time. So let's go ahead and get going. That's usually something that I promise you, you'll get beyond this, and what you got to play out is going, am I willing to do that to get the 6%? 75+% of the time, you're not going to be the agent that brings in the buyer. So get over the fact in this situation, get the listing signed up at 6%. And if you have to negotiate down, say, hey, if I'm the only buyer, if I'm the only agent involved, then I'll give you the 4.5%. That's how we both win in the transaction. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Any comments? Okay. Moving on to number 3, listing sitting and not selling. We're seeing this a lot out there where an agent was not as strong as they could be or should be, and the listing is maybe a little overpriced, or maybe it's out of condition. But the point is, the agent in this situation is not strong enough, or the sellers are not real enough. Maybe they don't have the motivation. Maybe you've done everything in the books. Maybe anybody can walk in the door and that seller's never going to change their patterns of what they do. That could be a reality, but normally we find that it's an issue that the agent was not as skilled as they needed to be to get the sellers to see the value in changing what they want, because it's change and nobody really wants to go through change if they don't have to. So one, you got pricing issues. One, I would recommend come to a pricing strategy class, come through some of the focus training that goes about pricing and listing and stuff. And it doesn't matter what school you go by, I can promise you any pricing strategies are going to be beneficial for you. And if you don't have a solid pricing strategy, you need to find something. Come in and talk to Rob, Deb, or myself. Sit down with us and let us help you work through your specific situation, of getting the home price right or changing the condition, because we do see today, especially, a lot of homes are sitting, maybe they're priced right, but they don't have a new kitchen, they don't have the light colors, the whites and the grays that most buyers are seeing in the model homes, and that's what they're expecting. So if I go into a home that has golds, browns, and those type darker colors, which was 10 years ago, we're seeing that we're transitioned out of that, and most buyers aren't getting excited. So you're gonna have to change either the color combination or adjust the price down significantly. And if you have a listing that is sitting, come into the office with the specific thing, or email us. If you can't make it into the office, email us with the situation, and we can help you work through that problem. Any comments outside of that?
No, I just wanted to add, would it be possible that some of the listings that are sitting is also negotiation and competition with the discounted agents? A lot of us will say, well, I can sell this house for this amount. Your discounted agent can't do that. So sometimes we try to win the listings by promising the sellers.
We can't promise the sellers what you're going to get for the price. What you can promise them is, with my strategies and my skills, I will give you the best opportunity to get the highest price possible in the market. The market's going to dictate the price. We can't promise anything on price.
You're right.
But the only thing we can promise is they don't want to go to a discount broker that doesn't have the same strategies and doesn't have the same skills, and that's why they're offering the discount, because they don't have anything to offer. So the only thing they can offer is a cheap price. The better you get at this game, the more strategies you put in place and you understand what we put behind you, and the better you get at the pricing commitments. As far as commitments means nothing more than, I know what I'm doing in pricing the homes, and here's why you need to price it here. But there should never be a guarantee in price, and you should definitely be able to go out there and win value over a discount broker by what's offered here, and why somebody should want to have a professional on the highest price thing that they'll ever invest in.
True.
By the way, I have noticed that Rhonda Duffy, who used to be $500 flat fee listing, and now they've changed it to $500 and then 0.75% at closing. But they're saying for full service. So you need to study up on Duffy Realty and know what they're doing or not doing. But they've changed their strategy to be $500 plus 0.75% charge at the closing date. Survey issue. We had a situation, and Jim, you can help me understand, make sure I don't mess it up, because it was a very interesting one. Jim Bullis had a closing, and he called me and said, I've got an issue. We have a dam that we thought was on the seller's property, and he was representing the sellers. And we just had a survey done. Last survey was before the dam was put in. And since the dam was put in, they just had a survey done the week of closing, and they found out that the dam was actually on the neighbor's property, right? So the property line did not go as far as what the seller thought it did. And they had built the dam, actually it was on the property line, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
And so the dam was built on the property line. So the neighbors and the sellers were sharing in the dam, and that could cause a big issue because now we have a situation where what the buyers thought they were buying is not exactly what they were, and there could be complications. So I didn't know what was going to happen in it, and it was a very interesting situation. But it goes along with, this could be any closing. It could be an encroachment that showed up over the last several years that wasn't there when the last survey was done. Could be a play set from the neighbors on this property, or this property has a play set over there. The closing attorney said something that I did not think. So they went into the closing and admitted to the attorney and the buyer, correct? So they fully disclosed everything when they realized they had a problem, which, number one, good job on that, as opposed to going, let's just try to sweep this under the table. Hit it straight on and see what happens. But the attorney, this was an education process. The attorney said, what's on file down at the county is what we're going to go with, because it's the only thing that's been fully documented and is down at
Had title insurance.
had title insurance. Yeah, so a title insurance question. So ran the title insurance based off the survey that had already been recorded down at the county versus taking this new one and assuming it's all correct, because the attorney said, well, this one has not been documented, it hadn't been sent down to the county, hadn't been recorded. So to me, it's not even worthwhile talking about it. We're going to close this and get title insurance based off of the survey that was done years ago. Is that right?
Correct.
That's pretty good memory there.
Yeah, it is.
But that was interesting. So that can become a situation where there's an issue with a neighbor's encroachment or their encroachment over on the other property, since the recorded survey is down there. So the question is, can you close one that you've now found there's an issue? And I guess the question would be, if the buyer said, I'm not going to buy it now, that's totally different. One, Georgia is a buyer beware state, so I don't know how that would have played out. So very interesting, but survey situation, the attorney said we're going to give the title insurance based off what was already recorded, and we're just going to wipe this one away and not even address it right now. Went to closing, closing wasn't delayed at all. And you actually found that out the day before closing, right?
I did.
So interesting situation on that one. Problem getting seller to act. This was been brought up several times where listing is cluttered. You've got a whole, you go into a home, you know it's a sellable home, but you've got a whole bunch of furniture, a whole bunch of knickknacks, there's crap all over the place. And it doesn't matter the price range, that just hurts the sellability of a home, because the buyers walking in can't see past what's there. And they can't get excited about an open plan if it's just littered with furniture. So ironically, they did just go to a home, and it was, what was the price, $575? $749, yes, $750,000. Had a very nice keeping room, kitchen, breakfast area, and the agent was having trouble getting the sellers to do anything. And the sellers were very defiant. So I went over there and met with the sellers, and you know, it was interesting because they're very strong. They, no offense to New Yorkers, but they have that very New York attitude, and were very dominating in their overall way. So in that situation, I said, bless you, or you? So bless you. In that situation, again, even the best explanation of verbal skills may not win. But what I always open up with is, one, I told the people, said, I'm not here to insult you, so don't be offended by what I'm going to say. I think your home shows nicely, and obviously you guys look very comfortable. You got incredible furniture. It's high expensive stuff. I can see that. But the reality is, I want to leave you with this statement to think about, and I'll say it several times, and this is exactly what I told them. I said, I got a statement that we always live by. It's called, you live one way and you sell another. And I can see that you guys live very comfortably here, and it shows well. But unfortunately, when buyers come in here, you've got too much furniture crowding the openness of the home. And in this area, it's very important so that the buyers that come in here can't get emotionally excited about this wonderful open area with your keeping room, breakfast area, and kitchen. The only way we can change that is to move this furniture. And I gave some examples of what I would recommend doing to open the home up. And they had a couch, a chair, another couch, 4 or 5 tables in this one room. So you got to be careful, because you don't want to insult them, but you definitely got to say, if you want to get your home sold, all I'm going to do is tell you what we're going to have to maximize the opportunity to get you to get it to sell. But if you're not willing to change these things, the chances of any marketing change in the situation is not going to help. So we all got to work this together. And what I need you guys to do is be open to changing as much as you're willing to in this room. Understanding you might not do everything I want you to do. We got to get you to change everything we possibly can to give your home the best chance of success in selling. We got the guy to be willing to move the couches, move a chair, take tables out of the room, and really it will have a different effect. And we told him, if you do this, we will come in and reshoot the home, bring new pictures in, and make it more sellable for if it's one buyer that walks in the door, great, we'll give it a much better opportunity to get the thing sold. So remember this, in this situation, you got to be very strong, you got to be convincing, you got to be committed. But the number one thing is, you live one way, you sell another, and I'm here, I'm on your side. And I love the way that your furniture looks, I love the way that your home is situated, but my job is to get your home in the best condition so that the next buyer that walks in here sees it in the maximum opportunity. They can see themselves living here and be excited about the floor plan and how your home's arranged. And then you got to know what you're doing too. If you need to get a stager in there to help you out, that's all fine and good. Okay. Feel bad at meetings. This came to us, I was kind of surprised, feel bad at meetings that are celebrating the successes of others. The statement was, I feel a little demotivated when all I'm seeing is the successes of others, knowing that I'm not being that successful and I'm having a tough time right now. That's really where the comment came from. And I just want to handle this straight on. I believe this: if you're trying to get better and you're willing to do things that you know that you're not doing to get better, then you will be motivated by celebrating the successes of others that are doing those things or did those things to get to where they are. Because successful people that want to be more successful know, if I want to be more successful, I need to find out what those people are doing, and I need to go duplicate what they're doing. And chances are what they're doing is different from what I'm doing. So I want you to remember that, and I want you to think about that. The successful people that we're celebrating, anybody can be there. You just got to be willing to do what you're not doing today to get to where they are. It's as simple as that. So we will stay on the celebratory meetings, the monthly money boards and the quarterly top dirty dozen, we'll call them, because it's built around success, your success. And I believe this: if you want to get 1 inch better, you need to be at those meetings and you need to ask those people the question: what did you do last quarter to have that success and reach the top? Simple as that. If you have any questions, I'm here to help you out. This whole system's here to help build you up, make you better. So I'm not saying get over it. I'm just saying get into it and come to the meetings and get over the psychological step that you're holding yourself back. And understand that you want to be around the successes of others. You want to be celebrating them. You want to get fired up, and you want to be in line for the next one to be up there. Moving on. Due diligence ends with Atlas Chalet Shingles. By the way, the due diligence, this email came in today. Due diligence ends tonight, and they just had the inspection yesterday, and they just found out that the home has Atlas Chalet Shingles, and the other agent, we represent the seller. The buyer's agent says, well, since your seller knows that it has Atlas Chalet Shingles, my buyer can't get a loan because the insurance company will not insure the home. Because if you don't correct the Atlas Chalet Shingles, we can't get insurance. So, as opposed to buying into that methodology, I called Kim Chapman, our insurance guy. And I asked him, I said, what happens if a buyer buys a home and the home has Atlas Chalet Shingles, and can they get insurance? Well, the answer, I knew that. The answer is yes, they can get insurance. Second step is, can they get the shingles replaced? The answer is, if there's damage to the shingles before those buyers buy, then they will not replace them based off that damage that's already there when the next buyer buys. But if that buyer buys and there's nothing done to the shingles, and then there's wind damage or hail damage to the shingles later, the insurance company will cover it as long as there is damage from when they bought the property. So one, we call that agent is not telling the truth. They're trying to get something done for their buyers, doing it with a tactic that I do not like, especially when we represent the other side. So the answer is, no, you can buy the property. Your seller needs to make a decision. Are they going to put anything towards the shingles to try and save the deal, which most buyers today don't want to buy a home that's got defective shingles and have the full responsibility for covering them, unless that home is a great value or exactly what that buyer wants. So I would suggest try to work something out, get the seller to kick in something, and see what happens. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
22-year-old polybutylene plumbing, and it's a $200,000 home. We see this a lot around the South Forsyth pocket. This home might be in Aberdeen or something. One, I'm surprised that polybutylene plumbing lasted 22 years, because I'd heard usually 15 to 17 years is where you have a problem. The thing that I've always heard about polybutylene plumbing, I'm not an expert, but what's always been said to me, if it's polybutylene plumbing, the question is not if it is going to crack and have problems. The question is when it is going to crack and have problems. I've not heard of one being 22 years old yet. We have now. I would want that replaced if I'm the buyer, but it will your property will be insured, and you need to check the insurance stuff on polybutylene plumbing. But this is something that is an interesting one. And again, it goes back to how bad does the seller want to sell and how bad does the buyer want to buy that property. I would want to get it changed out if I'm the buyer, because it is going to cause a problem in the future at some point in time. I'd be more afraid of this than Atlas Chalet shingles. So if I'm a buyer, I want this taken care of more than I do this. But that's all up to the people involved. Over here, number 9, we have tense negotiations. Hang in there, we're getting ready to wrap this up in about 5-10 minutes. Tense negotiations, you're $1,000, but no matter. I've seen $500,000 contracts walk away with a $250 gap because the buyer and seller could not meet, and neither one of them wanted to give in to the other, and they walk over $250. That just blows my mind. In this case, we had tense negotiations, and the buyer and the seller are $1,000 apart, both of them drawing a line in the sand. I'm not going to give. This is what I'll tell you. Human nature. If two people are drawing lines and neither one of them is going to give the full amount, your first option is, why don't we try to meet in the middle and get them both to kick in $500? And then you might in that situation get both sides to go, okay, I'm not giving the full amount, and if they're willing to give that amount, I'll let it go. As an agent, if you've got a hot property, I wouldn't recommend doing this. If you've got a property that has been a challenged sale and the buyer and the seller will not meet halfway in the middle, then the next step would be talking to the other agent saying, hey, as opposed to letting this deal go and you having to go show all the homes to the people and get them to find the next home, why don't you kick in $250, I'll kick in $250, and we'll get the buyer and the seller to kick in $250, because then you're taking a $1,000 drop down to $250. And if they know everybody's participating, more times than not, that would be the second step, and more times than not, that'll get people to fall in line. If it doesn't, then you got a choice. Are you willing to kick in the other agent to get the deal done? And that just comes down to how many deals do you have, how bad do you need the money, and how bad do you want to get that home off your plate. So, that makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, and remember this, you control what you're willing to do or not do. I want you to get every dime you possibly can, while leaving you flexibility in those situations to do what you need to do to get that home off your plate so you can focus on the next deal. And it's usually better to negotiate a little bit of your commission to get that one gone so that you don't waste time, energy, and effort that you could have been getting other business on that one again to try and find the next buyer, period. Okay? Same thing on the buy side. It takes a lot more time to go take your buyer around and find the next home, gas money, time, you could have put that into something else. So sometimes a little bit of give goes a long, long way in your business. Last but not least, big inspection list. We're seeing this come up on older homes too. You got a property that's a seller is adamant they're not going to do anything. You got a huge list that just came in. As a buyer's agent, how do you communicate that? As a selling agent, how do you handle negotiating that? What I will tell you is this. That's just a bad sight. What I will tell you is this. How hot is the property? If you're representing the seller and the property is very hot, then you're going to have a very small list, if any at all. If you got multiple offers and you got a big list, then I just kick it back to the buyer's agent and say, we're not doing anything on the list, and we'll just go to the next buyer in line because we have multiple backup offers. So that's how you would try to negotiate on the behalf of the seller, on the buyer. Throw whatever you can out there, and it doesn't mean that you're going to have a dead deal. During the due diligence time period, you can always go back and accept the property as is if that's what's required. So if you're on the buy side, negotiate like a madman, put it out there, get whatever you can done for your buyers, unless they tell you, oh my God, I'm willing to do all of it because I just want that home, so let's not work. Let them control, but as long as you're in due diligence, you have control as the buyer's side, because you can always accept the property as is prior to the end of the due diligence time period. If you're representing the seller, it just comes down to the demand on the property and what you have going into it or not, and the confidence that people have that you're representing. You guys have anything else that you want to ask or bring up?
Well, I just wanted to ask if you're representing the seller and the list is long, or no matter, it doesn't matter how long the list is, seller say no. Would it help if you had someone like a contractor that you can offer? Most time the seller don't have time. And for that reason, they would say
yeah,
no.
Okay, that's a good point. If I'm representing the seller and I see this long list, one contract, one handyman will typically be able to handle 90% of a long list. And if you bundle them up, if you have people go out and say you got a list of 25 items, If you had somebody go price out each one individually, it's going to be very expensive. If you bundle it up and have one person go out there to bid on 90% of the things that they can do, you're going to greatly minimize the cost, because really it's the time getting out there, and if they can do most everything, create a value package, if you will, bundle it up. And then the sellers typically do not know a solution. They don't know contractors and stuff. So they go, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do all that. You can manage it and help line things up for them to simplify it and get the deal done, versus letting them just strong arm because they don't know how to fix it. They don't have the time nor desire, but they might have the willingness. So if you have a handyman that you know that's reputable, one, you can go to the list that we're creating and have a list of vendors that can go out there, and you can make a recommendation of getting the cost much lower than what the seller is probably thinking it will be. Yes.
When did they stop using Molly Bugle plumbing?
Long time ago, I think it was like in the late 90s. I know when I was working at Syntex Homes, Aberdeen we didn't use polybutyl plumbing. So that was one of the things that we definitely sold against in Aberdeen, the resales. So it had to be in the mid to late 90s.
And when it's replaced, isn't that quite expensive?
Yeah, it's come down in price a little bit, but you can expect probably, I would say on the low side, probably $6,000, because I mean they got to go in and replace it all. You hope that it's on a crawl space so that it's all run under the crawl space. So if there is problems, the damage is going to be minimal. But typically you've got to run through walls, and you've got, if it's in the attic or in a floor space in between the first and second floor, it can be quite expensive, because then you got sheetrock that you got to cut into and redo. So it can be very expensive. But I would guesstimate on the very low side on a small home probably $3,000, and anywhere up to probably $10,000. Ballparking.
Thank you.
Anything else? So this will conclude our first video of the Talk to Terry, and we'll push this out, and every other Friday, unless it's noted, that we'll be doing the Talk to Terry segments. And we want it to be like this. It's wide open as far as what you can send questions in on or comments. I appreciate the ones that were sent in this week, and at some point in time, you'll be coming across different situations like this, and that is exactly what this is for. Next week, or not next week, but the next Talk to Terry will definitely focus on, hey, I've got a friend in real estate, and if I list, I'm probably going to list with them. How can you overcome that? I think you're going to see that out there, because everybody knows a real estate agent, but a friend does not mean that they're business-like in the way that they operate as a real estate agent. So a whole lot of things and strategies that we can help you put into place to overcome that objection when you do run into it. But again, it goes back to this. If you're not willing to practice and get it down and commit to it becoming internal with you, then the chances of you overcoming these objections and situations is not that great without your commitment to getting better. So good luck. Yes.
Are we having lunch today?
Oh, yes. If you're out there watching, make sure you're coming in. I think we got about 50 people coming in today. The burger place is, what's the name of it? Grub Bar. It's right over in the collection. It is phenomenal. I've been there. The shakes are fantastic. We're not going to have shake, but we're going to give out coupons for a free shake. So you'll want to come to it. It's the Rave, and it is awesome. So see you there, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Now I got to figure out how to turn this off. Somebody get hired.
All right.
Most of these topics, like the database, right?
Good. All right.